My name is Elizabeth Manns, and I'd like to welcome you to the April 4th Coalition Show. This is the August 14th, 2023 edition of the show. It is the 466th show that we have done since the closing of the North Adams Regional Hospital, and it's the 6th one that we have done since the announcement of its possible opening as a critical care access hospital in the future. The April 4th Coalition's mission statement is: we are for workers' rights and collective bargaining rights and are against tax breaks for the rich and corporations who ship our jobs overseas. We support all the articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but as is our custom, we put the emphasis on Article 23 at the start of the show, and I have 1 and 2 today, and Dick has 3 and 4. Number 1, everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and protection against unemployment. Number 2, everyone, without any discrimination, has the right to equal pay for equal work.
Number 3, everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration, ensuring for himself and his family, or herself and her family, an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented, if necessary, by other means of social protection. Number 4, everyone has the right to form and join trade unions for the protection of his or her interests.
Okay, and as is custom, we give a thank you to Michael Putnam, who is the program director for WMNB LP 107.1, for airing the audio portion of our shows on Fridays at 6 p.m., and to David Fabiano, Joanne Holba, and Nicole A. Brown, who are the wonderful staff at Northern Berkshire Community Television Corporation, for assisting us in producing this show. And a big welcome to Susan Rose, who is becoming a regular on the show, and for joining us again this week.
Welcome.
Thank you. And Dick, today you wanted to put the focus on a niche industry in the medical profession, because if we do get a critical care access hospital, it could provide a service that we would not have available at the hospital.
At their public meeting, when was it, August 7th? I'm not sure.
3rd.
August 3rd. They made it clear in no uncertain terms that they were not going to have a maternity ward.
Mm-hmm.
And
so the burden of the long travel for all the rural towns and
Yes.
everybody else for having a baby, because the only 2 maternity centers are in Bennington and Pittsfield, would still
Right.
remain.
Right.
Exactly.
Where, and we have the option of, we can cry and say, like Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Section 2 says, everyone has the right to equal access to public services in their country. Mm-hmm. And right now we have we have a maternity ward in South County and one in Central, but there's nothing planned for North County. But I'm just grateful that they're planning on opening the hospital.
We are grateful, because anything is a step in the right direction.
Exactly.
And the reason why I think it's so important that they open up that hospital is that it will provide other opportunities for other medical facilities to open up nearby and be supported by a freestanding hospital, which has an emergency room and emergency care. It'll bring doctors in. And one of the things, of course, when that hospital closed, we were worried about is the maternity ward. Mm-hmm. And I called the National Birthing Center organization and talked to them about it. And they said they like to be within 15 minutes of a hospital, but because of our situation, they would make an exception. But then in talking to midwives, it didn't seem like they were interested in practicing. Just like doctors, they didn't want to practice if they weren't close enough to a hospital.
Right, because it's their license on the line.
Right. So
at that point.
with our advocacy towards labor, and there's no labor older than childbirth, but also.
Oh, that was bad.
Oh, I like that one.
But I was thinking that maybe as a community we could try to set up a community birthing center that's supported by the community, and so to make that initial discussion or to get the ideas on paper, I wrote an email to the National Birthing Organization with my view of, or my dream of what it would be, and they replied to me and encouraged me to go forward. And there's, they sent me webinars and whatever, but I think we have to begin to build a broader base than just
Than
us
us
three.
three,
So
yes.
to start out, you know, we can talk about other communities that have started birthing centers, and I think we'll show a video where in Detroit they're in the process of building a birthing center, because they said throughout this country there are like birthing deserts. There's places without places where women
Yes.
have the support of the medical community. So let's listen to what they're doing in Detroit. It's just a short clip.
When construction is done, it's going to fill a critical need in the city of Detroit. It's a purpose-built birthing center that's turned into so much more of just a labor of love. Megan Woods is live on this story tonight. Megan, a whole lot of money was raised to bring this dream to reality.
Damon Birth Detroit, the nonprofit behind this project, raised millions of dollars in a little over a year. So when you come to this property, you'll see it's here on Grand River. You can see piles of dirt, overgrown grass. But the founders, they see Detroit's very first freestanding birth center. And, you know, people can deliver their children at hospitals, at home. And I asked the founders, why create this? Hear what they have to say.
Because Detroit deserves it. The families of Detroit deserve quality, loving care.
These four midwives are the founders of Birth Detroit, and this week broke ground on their birthing center.
Our clinic will be located in the center of what you see as this open space.
A big change from the one room they work out of right now, and it's a vision they've had since the middle of the pandemic when they created this nonprofit.
So we started off as volunteers, knowing that we needed more midwifery care in the city, and we weren't going to stop until we got a birth center, and it's happening.
Their mission is to access better birth outcomes.
The World Health Organization actually recommends midwives as a #1 solution to maternal mortality. And what we know is only 15% of us have access to midwives in the United States.
So they decided to build a place of their own to do just that, thanks to a capital campaign.
We're at $3.6 million, looking to close the gap to $4 million by the end of this year.
And when they open their doors in April 2024, they'll be able to expand their services from just postpartum care and education.
We're trying to make available a model of care to show our communities what is possible.
They plan to have a larger celebration in September during Birth Center Week. Live in Detroit, I'm Megan Woods, Local 4.
All right, Megan, thanks for that update.
Well, they
I
gave you the
think-
roadmap.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
Find a group of midwives,
right.
create a nonprofit, and then do the capital campaign.
Right.
I bet they thought it was just a dream when they started, but just like all dreams, it takes work.
It definitely takes
To-
work.
Right.
Nothing happens without the work being
You
put
got
in.
it.
Right, but we wouldn't be in, we wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel. There's other, there's the other organizations that would give us support. The National Birthing Center is going to have a training session on how to start a birthing center in Arizona sometime in the fall.
Okay.
But they have them on a regular basis, and I think
One will eventually hit the Northeast.
right. So I think what we have to do is reach out to the community, talk to people like Nursing Mothers organizations, talk to them, people who are in Berkshire, Northern Berkshire Pediatrics, and talk to people that are midwives or doulas in Berkshire County, and see what we can do to try to build a safe, healthy place for
Environment.
women to give birth that's local.
Right,
That's local.
which is the key.
And speaking of local, we have another video that we want to show, because there's a Seven Sisters midwifery in Florence, Massachusetts, who started the first midwife-owned birthing center freestanding birthing center in Massachusetts. So, and they service all of Western Massachusetts. So maybe we can
Partner with them.
partner with them to figure out how
That's a
to
great
do
idea.
something in Berkshire County. But let's watch the video for the Seven Sisters midwifery.
Look down, Lisa. Oh my God! Oh my God!
Oh, man.
Oh my God! Let's see where the cord is. Thank you very much. Hi, little one.
I love women in labor. I think the power of labor and what women can do to deliver their babies is amazingly wonderful to watch.
I've gone through births with people who had beautiful home births where everything unfolded absolutely as planned, and I've been through births where everything went sideways in different ways, and getting to the other side of it and seeing that family postpartum and them saying, even though it wasn't what we expected, we felt so supported. We felt like we understood. We felt like you actually explained things to us. As a midwife right now, it makes me feel driven because I want care to be so much better than it is.
The care that I had with the midwives was holistic. It was whole person, whole body, whole mind. It was like being with a friend. It was really easy to feel safe and heard because it wasn't clinical at all.
There was more time scheduled. It seemed like they really cared about me as a complex individual rather than just a time slot.
They're not part of a system that puts you into a category. And so by having that freedom and that time to express yourself as who you are and what your family is empowering.
Western Mass, especially the Valley community, has 2 hospital practices, Cooley Dickinson Hospital in Northampton and Franklin Medical Center up in Greenfield. We also have the other option of several very talented home birth midwives. What we don't have is the middle ground. Midwives inherently believe that birth is normal.
I trained in obstetrics during my residency, very medical model where birth is kind of treated pathologically, and I knew that I didn't want to birth like that. To me, a birth center was really comfortable, not only for the prenatal care, but also for the birth itself.
A home birth for us wasn't a possibility given our location. This was the best of both worlds. When he came in, it was dark and quiet, and it was really just a nice time for us to spend together as a family.
The birth center will mean that families will not have to compromise between 2 extreme options. Once you have your baby at the birth center, you receive unlimited care from your midwives, which is unheard of, and I think will absolutely change the game for postpartum families.
Well, being a queer family right from the start, having just the total normalized experience, I think it made all the difference for us to have a relationship with our midwives.
All the people in the community just goes so far and wide, and there's so much love for them.
And the work that they're doing to try to make this happen, I know that the state's having them jump through a lot of hoops because they're the first ones doing it and just pioneers.
Postpartum healing and adjustment and health is important to parents, it's important to babies. So that's what you are supporting when you work to make this center happen, is nothing less than a revolutionary shift in how families are treated and the care they receive.
We know that the mind-body connection is huge, and I think it really comes into play tremendously in pregnancy, where they feel really good about their body. We want to bring all that together in this community, have an opportunity to create something
that gives that same sense of place and community and good feelings to someone who says, you know, I want a place where I can give birth in my community with people who care about me and who know about me, because they're going to carry that story with them forever. And we want it to be a really good story. Our community needs a birth center.
I've been trying to do this for 30 years, and it's finally going to happen with your help.
I love you. I love that you've gone on this journey with me. We're crazy.
Everything that we've done so far in this project, we are lucky. We live in an incredibly generous community. So we just hope that we can keep that going.
Okay,
What I was
Sue.
wondering about was multiple births. Would that be a criteria that you could not have go to the center because of, people now are having 3, 4, and 5 babies. And I was thinking about, twins. Sometimes what happens is you have labor in the beginning, but then the first child comes out, but then after that, labor stops. And then there's a crucial window there. So I don't know what their criteria was for healthy mothers, meaning I understand that, but the thing that I didn't see was about multiple births and what they thought about that.
Well, my wife studied to be a doula, but she didn't follow through on it. But it's like the in-between and it helps. A doula helps the midwives giving birth. But one thing my wife said about the birthing centers is they do a lot of pre-screening. So if there's any trouble that's foreseen, the birth does not take place in the birthing center. They have you sent to a hospital situation where that birth takes place. And like they said, they're associated with Cooley Dickinson too, and so if they have to, they get you to a hospital.
Where would the women go from North Adams? Would they go to Berkshire Medical Center?
Well, they might, if the hospital is open, then the hospital would be a backup. I think that's a good question, but if not, then they would have to go to BMC or to Southwest Vermont would be the closest. That's where they're going now. And, I mentioned this to our mayor, just I was meeting with her with some neighbors about an issue in our neighborhood, but I mentioned about how, I think we need a birthing center here. And she said, tell me about it. And I wish I remembered exactly, but I'm lowballing the number. She said, in my 18 months as mayor, we have had 3 babies delivered in the back of cruisers.
Wow.
Right, because they can't get.
So we need to have a focus.
And the other part about birthing centers is it would help with the education piece.
Yes.
Of from the beginning of a pregnancy through to the end, which does not, I love BMC, they try, they have the courses up here sometimes, but people, I don't know if it's just lack of trust, but that education piece would be so much more helpful to young women, especially.
Also lack of transportation.
Right. Well, both videos mentioned it, and my wife said the same thing when she sat down after asking the question about the maternity ward at BMC at that open community meeting. And she said they treat birth like it's a medical problem. And you've heard in the 2 videos, they look at birth as natural.
Exactly.
And so let's look at the difference. Like at the Seven Sisters midwifery.com, they have an excellent information guide there. But then they have some questions at the end, and it says, what's the difference between a hospital birth what's the difference between a hospital birth center and an actual freestanding birth center? So it says the major difference between freestanding birth centers and hospital birth centers is that hospitals create a system-wide institutional policies to care for a wide range of people who are generally sick. Many of these policies have the ability to negatively impact the birthing process for a normal, healthy, pregnant person. A freestanding midwife-led birthing center, our protocols and procedures are based on evidence-based research, the midwifery model of care, and recommendations from the American College of Nurse Midwives and the American Association of Birth Centers and the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists. A freestanding birth center is also able to fully embrace the midwifery model of care, which approaches pregnancy and birth as a normal, family-oriented physiological event until proven otherwise. This includes having midwives practice to the full scope of their license with the support of carefully selected physician consultants. Freestanding birth centers offer both personal and comprehensive care to those seeking reproductive health, prenatal birth, and postpartum care.
So they're there from the beginning to
Right now,
through the process.
I don't have the other statistic that's in here, I probably should, is the number of cesarean sections done are astronomical. When you go to a birthing center, it's very limited, the number of referrals they make to cesarean, because, you know, like I've watched a few videos on other birthing centers, and like when you go to the birthing center, it's not like a hospital where a woman asks permission to stand up. Like she's usually, I mean, I'm not a woman, but my wife gave birth to 4 children, and I was at each one of their births. And we had our first birth here at North Adams Regional Hospital in the birthing room. It was very good. I remember walking in there, and there was this woman with a broom cleaning up. There was some material had fallen on the ground. She was cleaning it up and putting it there. I said, "Oh, gee, there's you know a nurse's aide or something, you know." But then when it came time for my wife to deliver, they're telling her, "Wait, the doctor's not here yet. Don't push." They didn't want her to push. But that woman who was sweeping up, she was the one there that was going to catch the baby if the doctor didn't get there in time. You know, but so this was a situation that we had to wait for the doctor to get there. My wife was told to wait, don't push until the doctor arrived. When you have a birthing center, you're the focus. You're not treated like, okay, well, the midwife's there with you. Our second child was born at Greenfield Community Hospital, and we had 2 midwives that worked with an obstetrician. So those midwives were with us the whole time of my wife's birth. The one of them that was on there, and like I was there with my wife. They had me cut the cord, and I was holding the baby, and they had, you know, my wife had a little bit of trouble after that, but they were able to take care of it. But that was quite an experience. And, you know, then I had 2 others born at North Adams Regional Hospital, the other 2. But the whole thing about the hospital is, and my daughter had my grandchildren at North Adams, you're always hooked up to an IV. You're sat in that bed. And in the birthing centers, it's more or less, they have a bed, and it's your room. They have a bathtub. They have a bathroom. They have pillows where you can stand up. You're not hooked up and monitored like you're, you know, it's more at ease. And I come from the perspective as my mother's grandmother was a midwife in the old country in the Tyrol. But then when she immigrated to the United States, she was certified at Bellevue Hospital in New York to be a midwife, and she was a midwife in Monroe Bridge, Massachusetts. So I really think that we should be reaching out and find women that are interested in this process to make it a safe place for a woman to give birth, a safe community for families.
And a supportive environment for a woman to
Yes.
give a birth.
And the whole family can be there. That's the nice part. And they have a huge queen-size bed for them to, the father and the wife or partner can sit back and enjoy their baby together.
Together,
It's,
right.
it's just a lovely video. I was so impressed
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
I saw some other videos, and they had like waiting rooms in addition to that. You know, they gave a tour of one, so they're
Right.
really professional. It's a big task, but I thought, with using the cooperative model, that maybe, if we could get some midwives, doulas, nurses, and try to find out what kind of staff they need and bring people together and try to set up a business model where not just the midwives own it, but everyone that works there has a democratic participation in the management
Right.
of it. If there's a board of directors, they elect the board of directors to run it.
You mean you don't want the state to appoint a board of directors?
No.
Which is what generally happens
Yeah.
at this
Exactly.
time.
So, with that model, of the birthing center like they have at Seven Sisters or across the country, and getting women that are interested, younger people than us, that are interested in setting this up, I think we would work with them and support them in this
Right.
vision.
Well, I think grandmothers and great-grandmothers would be supportive because they went through the birthing, of
Process.
being in hospitals and being hooked up to IVs and all the rest. And this is, I thought was so comfortable and loving. The midwives, they were very loving and caring and compassionate. And that's what you need when
Yeah.
you're giving birth.
And you have experience with this. How many children?
I had a set of twins and then 2 other boys. I had 4 boys.
And how were your birthing experiences?
Well, the first couple were all right, but it was just the twins. I gave birth to the first boy, and to say the truth, he just kind of popped right out. But
The
the
ideal
second
birth.
one was transverse, this way.
Right.
And his heart rate was going down and my blood pressure was going up. And there was no more labor to push. And so they had to go in with forceps without medication because that's what I always wanted. Labor, is painful, but the birth itself I found wasn't, so I never wanted medication. So they went in with forceps and pulled him out, and I tell you, I must have screamed. So, but then he had to be not on a respirator, but had to be monitored. But so that's why I asked about multiple births, is because of that situation that
We'll
I
have
had.
to do some research on that. We're cutting down to the end of the show
sure.
right now. I'm sorry that we didn't ask you to
Sooner.
go sooner.
Oh, I'm
but
sorry.
We'll try to
Sure.
follow up maybe in the next show or something.
Okay, so we're going to say goodbye and power to the people, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Power.
There's power in the factory, power in the land, power in the hand of the worker. But it all amounts to nothing if together we don't stand. There is power in our union. Now the lessons of the past were all learned with workers' blood. Mistakes of the bosses we must pay for. From the cities and the farmlands to trenches full of mud. War's always been the bosses'